System startup procedures for your irrigation system. Irrigation pressurization procedures have a couple recommendations from the Toro company. Use this technique as a superior startup method for all other brands of irrigation systems, not just Toro ones. The document that you see pictured to the right here details the startup technique required for Toro irrigation systems immediately following winterization procedure. This should be followed anytime water is filling an empty piping system. This applies to new system pressurization, startup in the spring, following a winterization in the fall, or after the piping system has been depressurized for any other reason. Here's a quick reference guide. 1. Begin by opening air exit points in your system. This will allow air to bleed from the system lines during the filling process. Couple subpoints. We want to open drain valves, which would be in low areas of your system. We want to insert quick coupler keys into quick coupler valves and open any air release valves at high points. And we want to install some riser hold-up tools and turn those selected sprinklers on to the manual on position. Sprinklers can then be safely run for long periods to remove pockets of air. Secondly, then, we'll turn the pumps on and maintain a pressure of 50 psi or less through the entire process. We'll adjust the pressure regulation at the water source to 50 psi, and we'll supply water to the system at a velocity fill rate of less than 2 feet per second. Thirdly, we'll systematically remove air pockets as the system fills from the lowest elevations to the highest, and behind us we'll close off drain valves, quick coupler valves, and sprinklers as we move through the system. When we get a steady water flow at each location, we'll close the drain and the quick coupler or the sprinkler. And we'll repeat that process until the air is evacuated, water is present, and all venting locations have been closed. Note, if we're using flag keys, when we're done, we want to turn the sprinkler setting to auto when finished. We do not want to set them at off. A couple warnings and a couple cautions that you need to be aware of. To prevent personal injury, never attempt to disassemble system while under pressure. To prevent personal injury, do not stand directly over any large turf sprinkler when activating manually at the sprinkler. Do not compress air and then relieve. We want to have openings for air to escape, so we bleed the air while filling the system. Don't exceed 50 psi of air pressure in any system. Exceeding 50 psi could result in severe equipment damage and personal injury. And activate each sprinkler only once. Subsequent activations will, with no water in the sprinkler, could result in high-speed activation and excessive pressure spikes, possibly resulting in equipment damage and personal injury. And pressure will build if the compressor is left running and no devices are left open to relieve the pressure. This can cause pressure to build to a dangerous level that may damage the irrigation system and create a hazardous situation. Here's a chart you could use: system gallons per minute, fill rate based on the pipe size. So the table will help you keep water velocities below 2 feet per second. The table assumes the piping system has been designed to minimize pipe friction loss and maintain a safe operating water velocity in the pipes at 5 feet per second or less. So you select the system pipe size where the fill water is being introduced. The Toro company recommends the use of pressure gauges installed in areas where the sprinklers are being electrically activated. Monitoring the pressure allows you to maintain the appropriate number of activated sprinklers at any one time. Activating too many heads will result in low pressure and heads that possibly will not operate. Activating too few heads will result in higher pressures than desired and may cause damage to parts of the system and possible injury. Each crew should have a gauge that will move with them from location to location to monitor the pressure. Electric valve and head sprinklers require a minimum of 30 psi to operate, but should not be operated at more than 50. You can use the Toro riser hold-up tool on the sprinkler heads, selected for air removal, by pulling up the riser, installing the tool, and turning the sprinkler to the on position. Here's a little picture illustrating a golf course with some elevation. So our first step would be opening the air exit points in the system to to allow the air to bleed from the system lines, so open drain valves, which would normally be in the low areas of the system. Then we'll insert some quick coupler keys into the quick coupler valves and open air release valves at the high points. We could put some riser hold-up tools and turn some sprinkler heads to the on position as well in areas that we know we will be getting pockets of air. Then we'll turn the pump station on in a slow recharge setting, or at least monitor it so we get a minimum flow rate not to exceed 2 feet per second or 50 psi. And we will run sprinkler heads one time, as well as allow the water to purge out these openings. As the system fills from the lowest elevations to the highest, we'll close off the drain valves, the quick coupler valves, and the sprinklers. When we get a steady flow of water at each location, we'll close these off. We'll move to other areas. We'll run some more sprinkler heads one at a time until the air is purged, and then turn them to the auto position if we're running them manually. And continue step by step as we walk our way from low elevations to high elevations. After the last section is done, the system is purged of air and the pump can be set to its normal operation. So one more time through the quick reference guide. Let's begin by opening air exit points in your system. This will allow the air to bleed from the system lines during the filling process. Open drain valves, which will be in the low areas of the system. Insert quick coupler keys into the quick coupler valves and open air release valves at high points. Install riser hold-up tools and turn selected sprinklers to the manual on position. Sprinklers can then be safely run for long periods to remove pockets of air. Turn the pumps on and maintain a pressure of 50 psi or less through the entire process. We want to adjust the pressure regulation at the water source to 50 psi maximum, and we want to supply the water to the system at a velocity fill rate of less than 2 feet per second. And third, we want to systematically remove air pockets as the system fills from the lowest elevations to the highest, closing off drain valves and quick coupler valves and sprinklers as we move through the system. When a steady water flow is detected at each location, we'll close the drains, the quick couplers, or the sprinklers, and we'll repeat that process until all the air is evacuated. Water is present and all venting locations have been closed. Note, if we're using the Toro flag keys for Toro sprinklers, we want to turn the sprinkler setting to auto when finished and not to off. We hope this has been helpful for you, and thank you for listening.